New day say me, no rush, I'm where I should be. Turn the noise down, see me shining. Low-key thriving, low-key thriving.
Ever been somewhere or in a situation, or sometimes even just sitting still, and you start to feel your hands get a little clammy, your heart rate starts to increase, and you're thinking, is this the onsets of a panic attack? Am I having an anxiety attack? Something's going on with my body where I'm not regulated or something's totally off. Well, it might not just be you being you or feeling crazy. It might not be a panic attack. It might actually be you with survival mode on. With today's world society, we have no idea sometimes how to turn off that survival mode switch. So today we're going to kind of deep dive and pause and explore who we really are when we aren't always in survival mode. Hey, what's up? It's your girl Mel G. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. And I really want to dive into how we are constantly in survival mode. It feels like anytime I turn on the TV, open a social media app, or open my emails, there's constantly something going on. There's really, honestly, too much happening all at once. We are living through everyday historical events. Now, that sounds super ironic as I say it out loud, but I feel like every day there's some kind of breaking news headline. There's something going on in this country. There's another shutdown. There's way too much happening. And as a millennial, I've lived through market crashes, bought a house, market crash, starting a family, taking care of family, in the time span of 20-ish years. So in 2 decades, I've witnessed so much pile on the terrorist attacks, the wars, the everything else going on. I sometimes have to pinch myself, like, is this real? And it's funny to think that, will history books even be big enough to fit everything that's happening? When my grandkids maybe ask me one day, hey, I don't know what I want to be called as a grandma, but hey, grandma, like, you lived through all these things? How did you live your life? Constantly on survival mode, a constant state of fight or flight. What's it going to be today? You know? And I feel like that's tough. Now, that's just news, right? That's just worldly events happening. Pile on work, pile on school, pile on parenting, piling on the caregiving that we're giving to our parents who are now getting a little bit older, and we're overstimulated, we are tired, we're exhausted, and we barely have enough time for ourselves. So, yes, we are constantly, I feel like, fighting for our life, trying to figure life out. Again, consistently in survival mode. I don't know about you, but I'm struggling with turning it off. Even leaving my driveway, it's like, is somebody going to come zooming down the street? Well, life is life, things happen, and we can only control what we can control. But really, let's be real. There's too much going on all at once. Now, I mentioned opening the apps, and honestly, TikTok has diagnosed me with vicarious traumatization. And by definition, that is the psychological, physical, and emotional impact of witnessing traumatic events via media, leading to symptoms like nightmares, fatigue, and intense anxiety. I had no idea we could have this type of trauma, that we put this type of trauma on ourselves. You open the apps and we are getting freshly fed 30-second videos of kidnappings, of police chases, of Watch What Happens Live, of paparazzi videos. Again, the news stories, the breaking news, the things we didn't even know we needed to know. Random facts. I have new phobias of bear claw spiders thanks to the internet. I don't even know if that's real or not. So, we are giving ourselves vicarious traumatization. I know I definitely have. I've never even had some of these phobias. But then, like I said, I'm like, oh my God, I'm already an arachnophobe, and I had no idea these types of spiders existed. Am I going to find a bear claw spider under my kitchen sink here in Texas? Highly doubtful. So why am I worried about it? Again, we are constantly fed trauma through apps. We live somebody else's trauma through some of these apps at 30-second intervals or sometimes longer, especially when we get caught in the doom scroll. And it can become so unhealthy. And like I said, you kind of have to pinch yourself and pause and think, is this real life or is this AI? Because scammers, artists, uh, the creative geniuses of the world, whether good or bad, have become really, really good at making fantasy a reality. And sometimes the deep fakes and the edits can really have you scratching your head. So I think it's really up to us as individuals to be like, is this serving my peace? Is this really real? Do your research. I think that's one thing I miss the most is people actually Googling, looking into an encyclopedia. Did this really happen in history? Was this real? Does this thing actually exist into the world? It's super easy to find credible sources. You just actually have to look them up. Maybe read the fine print sometimes. Maybe look for that AI generated tag. And some people put them on their content, some people don't. Again, I'm only showing you my reality, what I want you to see. Now, here on the show, you know we're all about being real. So you usually get the real, okay? But sometimes you really have to stop and think, is what I'm watching real or fake? I can't even tell you how many times my kids have come up to me in a panic and been like, Mom, this is happening. Can you believe it? They're introducing this new K-pop stuffed animal. And I'm like, oh, honey, that's not even licensed material. That's an AI generated content or AI generated ad. Here's how you can tell if it's real or not. Educating our children or youth how to actually do the research, because I don't even know if they teach that in school anymore. That should be a whole new class, how to differentiate real versus fake. Crazy. I can't believe we're at that point in our lives. So we, add this trauma on top of ourselves. We can't figure out if things are real or fake. And it's all being fed to us, all being fed to us constantly, all the time. And I think the most shocking thing is we even rely on the news so much historically. That's where we got the real information, was from the news. But now, I mean, we see it all the time. There's news anchors, there's channels, there's certain programs that have to sometimes backpedal because they're like, oh, we were actually fed fake news. And it's sad that fake news actually became a real thing when we used to depend on the news. So I just think we really have to differentiate all the things and really pause and learn to think for ourselves and do the research. So now we have all these things happening at once, and we choose to give ourselves PTSD by doom scrolling. So now what do we do about it? Well, A, stop putting yourself in risky situations. We aren't going to continuously jump off a cliff or a bridge every 30 seconds because it's amazing. Now there's some people out there who are like adrenaline junkies and choose to base jump and do all the fun things. If that's you, you do you, boo-boo. But you don't see those people constantly doing it in 30-second intervals or doing it for hours straight. There's limitations to it. Put yourself at limitations, put limitations on how much risk you're willing to take. Put limitations on the risky situations you put yourself in. There's timers on apps for a reason. Put your phone down if you don't have the self-control. Set a timer. I've seen the message warnings pop up like, hey, I think it's time for a break, just like when you drive a car, at least my car. It tells me, hey, I think it's time for a coffee break, pull over if I've been driving for several hours. I feel like every device, every major new electronic has some type of fail-safe to kind of let you know, hey, you're getting into a risky area of like unhealthy driving, unhealthy scrolling. It's a little too much for you. Scale it back. Stop putting yourself in risky situations. Now, when I was thinking about this episode, I came across the survival rule of threes. And it kind of goes like you can survive off of like 30 seconds of air, 3 days without water, 3 days without food, something like that. Don't have it right in front of me at the moment. I know, terrible host, Mel G. But I really want you to look up the rule of threes. And I want you to kind of remember that, hello, 3 is the magic number. And yes, maybe you set yourself up for 30-minute scrolls. I'm only allowing myself 30 minutes on this app. I'm only allowing myself, every 3 days to watch the news. Do something to that effect. Find a rule of 3 that works for you and keeps you healthy. Don't just survive. Don't just survive. Live. Go live your life. Stop getting the vicarious traumatization and maybe find real world trauma. Just kidding. Don't do that. Don't traumatize yourself. But go out, experience life. If you want to go touch grass, get off the phones. Journal, meditate, do something that gets you out of that flight or fight situation. The choices we make really can affect how our bodies react. If it's, living through a historical event and you just can't figure out what you're going to do next, maybe just go outside and realize the world outside my window isn't as terrible as the news is making it out to be. It isn't as terrible as social media is making it out to be. There is a life to be lived, and I think you can do so in a beautiful way without being in survival mode all the time. Reset the algorithm. If you are constantly searching for videos that traumatize you, guess what? The algorithm's going to keep feeding you videos and content that is going to traumatize you. I'm going to stop looking up bear claw spiders, and now that I've mentioned it, it's going to pop up a million times, but I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to find content that serves my purpose, that is going to fuel my peace, and something that scales back the feeling I'm in when I'm constantly in survival mode. Something that makes me feel peaceful, not something that makes me feel like I'm under attack. Take it back to basics. I think we're starting to see like analog lifestyles come back. People are getting cassette tapes and CD players and record players, and we're getting off of the streams and, the lives, and we're kind of taking it back to basics. And I'm here for that energy. We don't need to be fed constant news, constant negativity. Find something that really resets your body, calms you, and doesn't make you feel like you have to fight for your life every 30 seconds. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Low Key Thriving. And remember, surviving actually is thriving, but we don't need to be on survival mode 24/7, 365. Remember, you can find joy in the small things. You can find peace in the simplest task, the simplest everyday things. We just have to make the choices that work for us. And honestly, you survived another episode of listening to me yapping. And if this resonated with you, tune in next week when we dive into spring cleaning. But this time we're going to do it, but like for your life. We're cleaning up your life. Okay. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Okay. Bye. If this conversation met you where you are, stay with me. New episodes every week on Low Key Thriving. If this felt like something someone else might need, send it their way. Take what you need and leave the rest. And remember, keep it light